legends, I hope you're all awesome. We have the Keeley Halo on the bench today. A massive thank you to my buddy Chris Brennan for letting me borrow this. Chris is a longtime friend of the channel. Send him some love in the comments section below. This is the Timmons Dual Echo signature pedal in here. Essentially, it's a dual delay in a compact form factor with a bunch of modes and really interesting controls that's pretty unique to this particular form factor on here. What I'm going to do is actually just play through a few presets on here. Then I'm going to go through mode by mode and just play around with it and do some tweaking. Kind of the reason a lot of people want to buy this pedal is, of course, for the Halo mode, and that is preset number 1. So we'll hear the dry sound, and then we'll hear the Halo in stereo. We can all go home now. That is worth the price of entry alone. An absolutely epic sounding dual delay on there. I just had to play around with the level control. That worked really, really nicely on there. I can see why people have been raving about this pedal. We'll go through a few more presets. Essentially, there's 4 preset banks in here, and there's 2 presets per bank. The presets are selectable with the foot switches. So in this case, on bank number 1, A was the Halo effect, and then over here on 2, this is basically a pretty nice rhythmic echo with some nice high-end roll-off and a little bit of modulation. The primary controls there are very self-explanatory. There are secondary functions which are accessible by holding down the feedback encoder and twisting the relevant knob. So the secondary functions, For the time control, that's going to bring in a high pass filter on the delay repeats. The secondary function for the level is tape style compression and saturation. The secondary function for the modulation rate on here is going to change the overall tone on there. That's kind of like a more coarse, bright to dark control as opposed to the high pass filter, which is going to act in a sort of more subtle fashion on there. Then the secondary function for the depth control is going to select between the different modes. So if we go to the extreme setting over here, we've got a multi-head tape echo. Let's just check this one out. We'll stay with the dirt and see where we end up. That sounds absolutely beautiful. This pedal is pretty inspiring to play. The way the sounds have been curated means they're pretty much instantly gratifying, and all the parameters on there have a really musical range. Like the modulation never gets too deep, never stays too shallow on there. It's easy to dial in the feedback. Kind of reminds me of playing the Strymon Dig for the first time, where I went in thinking it was going to be another delay pedal, and it ended up as one of my favorite pieces of musical gear ever. This is so good. The little kind of microchip symbol right here reminds me of that Nintendo 64 game Space Station Silicon Valley. Anybody remember that? Anyway, I think this is basically trying to recreate the old Rockman rack echo in there, which I think from memory was like a 350 and 500 millisecond dual delay. If you had the Halo thing, you know, dotted eighth note and a quarter note, that would be like 375 and 500. When you're at 120 BPM or something like that. Nevertheless, slightly different ratio on there. So let's hear this one. I'll just play with the time level modulation on there. I might play with the saturation as well. Let's start off kind of clean, and then I will, of course, go over to Mega Grease. This is so good. I'm kind of falling in love with this pedal in real time. Chris, what have you done to me? And, I'd kind of expect no less from a player as venerated and deserving of praise as Andy Timmons. Andy is such an amazing player and so inspiring, not just to listen to as a player, but as a kind of general human being in person. And Robert Keeley's designs, who are really, really well renowned, and pretty much everything Keeley I've tried has been super solid. So there's a few things on here that I haven't tweaked yet. Let's play around with tweaking this high pass filter on the delay repeats, and then we'll add some saturation in here and make our delays really crusty. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to hold down the feedback. I'll turn the saturation down all the way. Then I'm going to bring it back in. I don't know, I'll set the delay somewhere around here. Let's go to a clean sound just so we can hear the effect on this in a kind of big contrast. Then, of course, we'll go back to some dirt. You would have seen in there what I would probably consider my one criticism of this pedal, that, well, at the current angle I'm at, it's pretty awkward, but it is easy sometimes to be holding that feedback parameter down to get to the secondary functions, twists a knob. And for example, if I'd turned that high pass filter control in this direction, I'd lose track of where the time control is at on there. I guess the defense for that would be that what you do with this is you dial in the presets you need. If you need a dotted eighth note subdivision on one, the halo on the other, the Schultz Rockman kind of delay on another, you would use that, scroll through them in a live set, and then use, say, an external pedal connected either to blend the effect in or use an external tap tempo switch on there. So kind of just have your sounds programmed and then it's set and forget. But I have found while tweaking it, that is the one big compromise on here with this pedal. But I kind of don't care because it sounds so good. In the same way, I have a bunch of clunky old rack equipment that is hard to use. It's idiosyncratic. You need the manual a lot of the time, but it sounds so good that I don't care. And at the end of the day, for me, I'm going to prioritize tone over just about anything else. And, those UI quibbles aside, this really does sound amazing. It's probably up there with the Strymon Dig for me. There's a few other delay pedals that I really like, but for the dual delay thing, has a very unique sound. It's probably the closest thing that I have heard to what I can get out of my Axe effects when it comes to those dual delays on there. The Dig does some great dual delays, but in a slightly different way. This does the dual delays in its own way. The Axe FX kind of lets you do anything you like, and it's like this history of delay processes in once. And considering this is a standalone pedal, I think that's pretty amazing. So Chris, thank you so much for loaning me one of these. I probably need to go and buy a Halo now because I am a delay junkie and I love the way that sounds. And plus, you know, Keeley and Andy Timmons, they've been doing good stuff for years. They deserve the support. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Let me know if you've got any specific questions. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel and you want to support me directly, my Patreon is linked in the video description. I make music with the band Ragdoll. Our entire back catalog is linked. Have a great day. I'll play you all out with some more greasy delay tones. Thanks for watching.